Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Trebas Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
A New Year's Day attack in New Orleans is now being called the deadliest attack on U.S. soil to be recorded, in which a weaponized vehicle was used. Thanks for joining us. I'm John Carroll in for Maya Trabulsi. The names of victims are still coming in, as at least 14 people are confirmed dead. A San Diego State student is among the dozens injured. Ivan Rodriguez has more.
Sanitation crews in New Orleans had a grim task before sunrise today, turning a horrific crime scene back into a public street.
We were able to remove our victims, identify them, and notify their families. Real reverence. They mattered.
Louisiana's governor toured Bourbon Street early this morning. The parish has been under a state of emergency since Wednesday.
Right now in the city of New Orleans, there is an unprecedented amount of law enforcement resources that are being utilized to close out and to hunt down and to finalize this investigation.
This was an act of terrorism.
The FBI on Thursday confirming an ISIS-inspired connection.
He posted several videos to an online platform proclaiming his support for ISIS. Additionally, he stated he had joined ISIS before this summer.
And it appears now he acted alone.
We do not assess at this point that anyone else is involved in this attack except for Shamsa Din Jabbar.
This hour, Canal and Bourbon Streets are once again open, hosting thousands of people in the city for today's Sugar Bowl and evening celebrations. The city's mayor offering this assurance.
The city of New Orleans is not only ready for game day today, but we're ready to continue to host large-scale events in our city because we are built to host at every single turn.
Ivan Rodriguez, KPBS News.
Tonight we're dropping down to the upper 40s, continuing to see those partly cloudy skies. We're going to see some changes over the next couple of days. I'll break all of that down coming up.
Thousands of California homeowners have been dropped by their insurance companies over fire risks. In an effort to stabilize the insurance market, California's insurance commissioner has announced a new regulation for carriers. If the companies want to keep doing business in California, they'll need to start issuing policies in high-risk areas. And they'll need to increase their coverage by 5% every 2 years until reaching 85% of their market share. Carmen Balber is with Consumer Watchdog. The Consumer Protection Organization is critical of the regulation.
Companies have multiple loopholes they can use to not increase the amount of coverage they're offering in California, and that is a big problem because the result of the commissioner's regulations is guaranteed double-digit rate hikes, but we don't know that anyone else is going to get access to coverage again.
The regulation is under review before taking effect within 30 days. As of January 1st, Scripps Health is no longer a part of the Anthem Blue Cross Insurance Network. KPBS reporter Melissa May looks into what this means for patients.
After months of failed contract negotiations, Scripps Health has been removed from 125,000 San Diegans' Anthem Blue Cross insurance networks.
The most powerless people in this whole system are the patients right now. They don't have a say other than going back to their employer.
Nathan Kaufman is a healthcare consultant and the managing director of Kaufman Strategic Advisors.
Unfortunately, you have these for-profit insurance companies that want to grow, and they grow in their profits in part by reducing at least the rate of increase in the cost of hospitals. And then you have the hospitals who are usually governed by the community, who are seeing huge cost inflation and absolutely need the rate increases, not primarily to subsidize government patients. And so it's a mess.
No one from Scripps Health was available for an interview, but in a statement, Scripps says, quote, throughout the negotiation, Scripps's focus was to change Anthem's bureaucratic policies that cause unnecessary delays, burdens, and barriers to patient care. It is disappointing Anthem was unwilling to reduce those barriers and offered rates below healthcare inflationary costs. The statement went on to say, Scripps proposed to continue negotiations beyond yesterday, but Anthem provided an ultimatum that was unacceptable. Anthem Blue Cross was also not available for an interview, but a spokesperson provided the following statement. Scripps demanded drastically increased prices for patients covered by Anthem, increases that would have led to higher out-of-pocket costs for our members and would have hit area employers particularly hard. According to Anthem Blue Cross, more than 80% of their members are insured by employers that pay their employees' healthcare costs directly.
What the government has done is created an environment where essentially health systems are generating a hidden tax, right? They're basically taxing the employer for the underfunding of Medicare and Medicaid.
Scripps Health and Anthem Blue Cross both expressed they are open to discussion and coming to a reasonable agreement. Kaufman says agreements like this can be resolved in weeks or it may take months.
I am concerned that there is not sufficient capacity within the system for the other healthcare systems and physicians to absorb the Scripps patients who can no longer go to Scripps.
Scripps recommends its patients contact their employers' human resource departments about their health insurance options. Melissa May, KPBS News.
California's minimum wage has increased $0.50 to $16.50 an hour, but that's far from enough to live here. Last year's Affordable Housing Needs Report of San Diego County says renters have to earn almost $48 an hour to afford the average cost of an apartment here. That's about $2,500 per month, according to the California Housing Partnership. The new minimum wage does not affect fast food or healthcare workers. Some good news for families in California. Governor Gavin Newsom announced an increase to paid family leave today. Eligible workers earning less than $63,000 a year are now able to receive up to 90% of their pay while on leave. Workers who make more will receive 70% of their income. The change also applies to disability benefits for new claims filed on or after January 1st, 2025.
I'm Amina Navaz. Tonight on the News Hour, what we know about the suspect in the New Orleans terror attack. That's coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
A Roman Catholic school in El Cerrito is fighting to keep its doors open after the Diocese of San Diego said it could no longer cover its budget deficit. KPBS reporter Katie Anastas says the school has less than a month to find enough money and new students to stay open.
St. Katherine Drexel Academy opened 6 years ago with just over 150 students. It replaced 2 parish schools, Our Lady of the Sacred Heart and Blessed Sacrament. The goal was to reach 200 students. The current enrollment is about half that. Steve Carter is the parent of 5th and 8th graders at the school. He also leads the school's parent-teacher group.
When we received the letter on October 18th from the diocese that the school was closing, it was kind of a gut punch to the community. We just didn't know we were even on the threshold. We knew we had some challenges with fundraising and with enrollment, but we didn't know it was that dire.
The Catholic Diocese of San Diego says the school is facing a $300,000 deficit for this school year and likely a bigger one next year. Pandemic relief funds and diocese support have helped cover previous year's deficits.
With the diocese filing for bankruptcy, the margins, our ability to subsidize the school are just a lot less. And frankly, there just isn't enough enrollment to justify the investment.
The diocese says if the school can raise $500,000 and enroll 30 more students for the next school year by February 1st, it can stay open. If not, it'll close at the end of the school year. Each student will receive a $1,000 tuition credit to another Catholic school in the area.
I mean, ultimately, I hope the school remains open. I hope the families are successful in raising the money that's needed to keep it open. But we'll just have to see how it pans out.
Unlike St. Katherine Drexel, most Catholic schools in San Diego are connected to a parish led by a pastor. Those parishes often support their schools financially. Without an increase in enrollment or fundraising, St. Katherine Drexel would have to increase tuition to break even. Tuition was $6,850 this year for one student. The median household income in the area is just over $75,000. In nearby Normal Heights, St. Didacus Parish School charges about the same for tuition, but the median income is more than $95,000.
I think those in lower income areas should not be deprived of Catholic education because of cost. And that's one of the things our school has tried to do, unfortunately, a little bit to the detriment of the school.
Donors have given more than $12,000 to a GoFundMe page for the school. As February 1st quickly approaches, parents are holding out hope.
I believe in our school and what we've built and the teachers and the community that has evolved because of it.
Katie Anastas, KPBS News.
Many of you probably watched the Rose Parade and all of its beautiful floats on New Year's Day. But now spectators have the chance to get an up-close look at all of those incredible displays. Rachel Kim takes us on a tour of Float Fest in Pasadena.
Visitors went wild over this year's Rose Parade sweepstakes winner from the San Diego Zoo. It's one of the 39 spectacular and colorful award-winning floats sitting along Sierra Madre and Washington Boulevards for Float Fest.
I love the Rose Parade, and then I like all the floats, and then it's cool to see it here in person.
Evie Pablon and her family from Whittier drove to Pasadena to stop and smell the roses at Float Fest, a 2-mile showcase of Rose Parade floats where visitors can get an up-close look and appreciate the artistry and beauty of the floral masterpieces.
This is our first time. It was kind of inspiration for our kids to go.
Karen, what's your impression?
It's beautiful and not as crazy as we thought it was going to be, but it's so neat to see them in person and to smell them.
We're open from 9 to 5 all 3 days. On day 2, our seniors and disabled, they can get here as early as from 7 to 9. That way they can meander easily. And then the general public opens on day 2 at 9 o'clock. On Friday, we're back open from 9 to 5.
This is the Kindness is Free float by the Boys and Girls Club of the San Gabriel Valley. The float is 55 feet long and is adorned with 20,000 flowers. It won the Bob Hope Humor Award for most amusing and whimsical float. The message here is, simple acts of kindness can create positive ripple effects across communities. Seven, what did you think of all the floats?
They're beautiful.
4-year-old Seven Allen convinced her parents to drive from Corona to see the floats. Her mom is glad they did.
I mean, it's even more intricate up close, especially to see how they use different parts of the flowers, like the seeds and the stems. It's not just flowers. I think that's really cool.
My favorite was Wicked right here.
Brian Hadfield, his wife, 2 kids, and parents said, like the theme of this year's parade, this is the best day ever. How's Grandma, Grandpa, the kids holding up?
They're doing well. Now Noah's very excited. Now you can see what it takes to get these floats together. Definitely recommend this to anybody.
Swipe left if you voted for Trump. Swipe right only if you're pro-choice. Politics has seeped into the dating world. People's votes are now litmus tests for whether they're a good match. KPBS's Public Matters reporter Amitha Sharma joins me now to talk about dating in a deeply divided time. And Amitha, I remember a time not so long ago when honesty, a sense of humor, and kindness were what you looked for in a prospective partner. Sounds kind of quaint now. What has changed?
Everything has changed, John. As we at KPBS have reported in our stories, we've discussed this on programs. Since the 2016 presidential election, even deeper lines have been drawn over issues like a woman's right to control her body, the abortion issue, LGBTQ rights, undocumented people, race, climate change. People believe that these issues cut to the core of their personal beliefs, their principles. And so they're using them to vet potential dating partners. I spoke with a woman by the name of Ashley Harbeck. She teaches dance PE at a local high school. And one of her big issues is reproductive rights. And she says it is so important to her, and she does not believe it is a political one. She believes it transcends politics.
It's not so much like whether you're Republican or you're Democrat. To me, it's like, what are your values? And I feel like who you are voting for right now speaks leaps and bounds for that.
More young people are single, and marriage and birth rates are on decline. 47% of adults under 30 are single, according to the Pew Research Center. So adding political ideology to a list of traits for a partner further narrows the pool. But Harbeck says her values mean so much to her that for a time, she even compromised on other traits, such as looks and whether the man fits into her friend group. Meanwhile, 26-year-old Josh Bell, who is an independent, is open to dating someone who doesn't perfectly match his political beliefs, but only if those beliefs don't contradict his moral code.
Like basic human rights, like freedom of speech and things like that of that nature, climate change, and how it's directly being affected with certain laws that are passed current day, and the current effects of mental health on society today. And I think all of those kind of have a core belief that directly affect dating as well, because the mindset, I think, on that relates to the character of a person.
The numbers back up that politics has sunk into people's dating lives. Inner Body says only 5% of Democrats are dating Republicans. About 8% of Republicans are dating Democrats. 30-year-old Hallie DeGroot views life and the world through a political lens. Dating someone who is not pro-choice is a no-go and feels unsafe to her. She would even consider the political ideology of a prospective partner's family in her dating decisions. She does not believe that she has set the bar too high. In fact, she says women's standards have been too low for too long.
We should have been able to be more selective or like pickier all along, and now we're dealing with the fallout of what it means to be in control of as many factors in your life as you possibly can, like actually being in charge of your own life.
But some still think politics is irrelevant in dating choices. Eddie Rosenfeld is a 27-year-old Republican who works in operations at a tech company. He says a potential mate's political ideology is about as important to him as her favorite color. All he requires is that she be receptive to other ideas. He has dated both Democrats and Republicans.
When I dated someone that was liberal, I had a much better relationship with them because they were just more open and understanding and not very judgmental. And the person that I dated that was a little bit further right was a little bit more passionate about those views and would, stand on those values very strongly and strongly oppose the other side. And so to me, that was more of a turnoff.
And one quick point, John, it's not as easy for people under direct threat of the incoming President Trump administration's potential policies, such as undocumented people or the LGBTQ community, to be as light or detached about dating people or dating a person who holds opposing political beliefs.
Well, Amitha, as I said to you during the story, I'm glad I'm not any younger. It's all very interesting. Thank you so much, Amitha. I appreciate it.
Well, if you're heading out and about, especially first thing in the morning come tomorrow, keep in mind we're going to be dealing with some fog, some low clouds, so just plan for some limited visibility in spots. But aside from that, wind is really the big story. We're seeing a couple different phases of wind, some of us seeing stronger wind gusts for your Friday, but then Santa Ana winds return early next week. increasing that fire danger as well. Let's talk about tonight first, though, dropping down to the 40s for most of us, upper 40s for San Diego, El Cajon, 41 for Ramona there, and 44 over in Borrego Springs. Tomorrow, we are warming up to temperatures in the 70s and the 60s, depending on where you are. Closer to the coast, we're seeing 64 in Oceanside, 65 in San Diego. A little bit warmer over in Borrego Springs, but then down in the 50s for Mount Laguna. Just about all of us dealing with a mix of some sun and some clouds. Now, let's talk about that wind. So on the map here, darker colors, darker shades of purple mean higher wind gusts. So take a look at what happens as we go throughout your Friday. We're seeing more of those darker shades of purple here from the coast all the way further inland. We're seeing 30, 40 mile per hour wind gusts for a lot of us as we go throughout our Friday. So something to keep in mind there. But then early next week, that's when we have the return of Santa Ana winds that are going to increase our fire danger as well. But first, let's talk about temperatures over the next 5 days. For the coast, we're seeing relatively consistent, going from the mid-60s, cooling down just a little bit for Saturday, and then actually starting a little bit of a warming trend as we head into early next week. Further inland, we're bouncing around a little bit more, from 70 degrees on Friday down to the mid-60s, back up to the 70s, where we then see a little bit of a warming trend there over the next couple of days. In the mountains, temperatures a bit cooler, of course, but temperatures are going to drop a bit and stay a little bit cooler as we head into the weekend. 54 for Friday, down to the upper 40s by the time we get to Saturday. Things do warm back up, though, by the time we get to Tuesday. Then your desert 5-day outlook, we are in the 70s, not bouncing around too much here, from the mid-70s down to the low 70s, and sticking with 72 by the time we get to your Tuesday. Seeing that mix of sun and clouds throughout most of your week. For KPBS News, I'm AccuWeather's Anna Azalian.
Our county has little bits of history hidden everywhere. You just have to know where to look. Ken Kramer has a couple of examples in this story about San Diego.
First of all, here's a building in New York, very famous because it's strange looking, made to fit on a triangular lot between streets that come together in an angle. Considered a wonder of the 20th century when it was built in 1902, even today they sometimes call it the Flatiron Building in Manhattan because it's shaped a little bit like an iron you'd use to press clothes. So that's in New York. Here's another one in San Francisco, one on Peachtree Street in Atlanta, Flatiron Buildings. And then, did you know San Diego has a Flatiron on a little island of land at 26th and National in Barrio Logan? Upstairs are apartments in this building that's had several owners dating back to 1911. Downstairs has been a market, a liquor store, a tavern, and a beauty parlor. It's a striking sight on a little triangular lot where Sicard Street intersects with 26th and National. Okay, a few blocks up where 26th makes a turn and becomes Logan Avenue, go back in time to the 1940s and earlier. Here's a great old photo. You can see it's a streetcar making that turn. Well, that picture is in a frame here at an historic restaurant in Barrio Logan for a very good reason, because more than 70 years ago, this place was a streetcar.
Yeah, it's actually an old streetcar that was built in 1912.
Carolina Santana says when the Logan Avenue streetcar line shut down in the 40s, there was a property owner here, a man named Al Johnston. Really interesting guy.
He was an artist, he was a musician, he supported community members, he hosted community meetings in his space.
And he noticed one of the old streetcars was abandoned right out on Logan Avenue, left there for junk.
Him and a bunch of guys literally lifted the streetcar and had it landed on his property.
He cleared out the passenger seats inside, added a stucco wall to the front and a kitchen, and named it Carrito, meaning little car. More than 70 years later now, here it still is, uniquely positioned right where he left it, as maybe the most unlikely business building in San Diego. You look at the walls and the ceiling, and I mean, you can really tell what this was. Carolina and her dad own it now. Her mom created the recipes. They like to celebrate its history, little reminders here and there. And she says, well, sometimes it is a tight fit.
So small, it's like a closet. It's literally like, you could probably expand your arms from end to end, and you could go like this and touch both sides Both walls.
And as for Al Johnston, could he have ever imagined his streetcar would still be here 70 years later?
You know what? I don't think he ever imagined, probably not even in his wildest dreams, but I'm sure he'd be very, very proud.
So there, to this day, is his El Carrito and the Flatiron Building of Barrio Logan, each in its own way something quite remarkable about San Diego.
Ken Kramer has a half hour of stories every week about San Diego. You can see them Thursday nights at 8, right here on KPBS. Yesterday, a special evening edition highlighting the overcrowding crisis at local animal shelters and solutions to that did not air at 5 and 6:30 p.m. due to technical issues. We apologize for that. The show will now air tomorrow night at 8:30 in place of KPBS News This Week, and we do hope you'll join us. Get the latest from KPBS delivered right to your inbox. We have a variety of newsletters, including daily headlines, KPBS Arts, streaming picks, and our North County focus. Go to kpbs.org and look for the newsletters section at the top of the screen. From there, you can sign up with your email address. And of course, as always, you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm John Carroll. Have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.